Thank you for this opportunity. I work for Rocky Mountain Power.
Yes.
My current position is managing director of the power plant. How do you see the coal industry and its supply chains affected by continued environmental factors? And what are you doing to address job and economic impact in Utah?
Okay. Steve, I'm glad you raised this issue, and this is consistent with so many of the other questions we've been getting tonight. This deals with this administrative bureaucracy culture that has developed in Washington. Sometimes when people describe it within Congress, they make it sound as if Congress were the victim in this. In fact, Congress is the perpetrator of this problem. Congress is the problem. Congress has chosen to delegate away its authority in such a way as to give unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats within the federal government very broad discretion to basically shut down coal. So this administration has pledged to do that. It has been consistently wrong in my opinion, but consistent in saying basically it wants to shut down coal in America. Now this is wrong. We can't allow this to happen, not only because I believe they're really exceeding their authority statutorily and constitutionally in doing this, but also because it's so contrary to our economic interests in the United States. Now look, I'm an all-of-the-above guy when it comes to energy. In addition to coal, we also need natural gas. In many parts of the country, we'll continue to need nuclear power, geothermal power, wind, solar, hydroelectric, geothermal, you name it, I'm for it. But there's nothing quite like coal in terms of its abundance, its affordability, its reliability. There's nothing quite like coal in that we can store it in one location, right next to the power plant, for many, many months at a time. I mean, you can create a huge mountain of coal such that if supply chains are interrupted, you can continue to generate electric power on site, even if your production lines go down for a while. You can't do that with natural gas, not like you can with coal. It's one of the reasons why I'm determined to continue to protect coal. I've supported legislation in the Senate that would undo significant parts of President Obama's war on coal. Unfortunately, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there are many respects in which occupying the White House is reminiscent of this idea that possession is 9/10 of the law. There's a lot they can get away with, particularly in President Obama's last year in office, just because it will take a lot of time to undo through litigation or through congressional action some of the affirmative steps being taken by this administration to harm the coal industry. But please know that we're doing everything we can, everything within our power to undo that. What I'm going to propose is that the next time we have an opportunity to pass spending legislation, I would like to see us withhold funding for the implementation of any of these programs that are designed specifically to kill the coal industry. I think our commitment to the American people requires nothing less than that, and I'd like to see that. We will also continue to have votes, as we have already a couple times in the last year, on what are known as resolutions of disapproval, where we will vote on a particular measure, a particular administrative rule that's designed to hurt coal in an attempt to stop it. If we can get a resolution of disapproval passed by both houses of Congress and signed into law by the President, it undoes the action. But therein lies the problem. When the Congressional Review Act was passed into law just over 20 years ago, they didn't go far enough. And what they should have done is pass something much more similar to the RAINS Act, which I described a few minutes ago. In other words, the default proposition ought to be that the new rule or regulation in question, whether it's designed to hurt coal or do something else, the default proposition needs to be that it doesn't take effect. Absent congressional action, it shouldn't take effect because it's a new law. And my copy of the Constitution, in the very first clause of the first section of the first article, says that all legislative powers herein granted, meaning all power to make law within the federal government, shall be vested in a Congress which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. Now, the last time I checked, the EPA was not mentioned as having legislative powers, nor was the Department of the Interior. they don't have the power to make law. Only Congress has that. So we've got to stop delegating that power away so as to create the false impression that they've got the power to do this. If we would reclaim that power, they couldn't get away with it. That's why we need deep, lasting, meaningful regulatory reform, the likes of which could be achieved through passage of the REINS Act, of which I'm an original co-sponsor in the Senate. Significantly, Steve, the REINS Act has passed each year, every year, for the last 3 or 4 years in a row in the House of Representatives. Tragically, despite my best efforts to do so, we have not been able to achieve a single vote, a single up or down vote in the United States Senate on the REINS Act, and I'm going to try to get that changed this year.